My name is Erik, and I'm a product designer, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the state of Cashew design. So I'm going to be mostly focused on talking about Cashew from a design point of view, and I'm going to be sharing some of the latest and greatest design tweaks and features that exist in the Cashew space right now. A little bit about me. I'm a product designer. I used to work at some large, boring fiat companies. Lately, I am focused solely on Bitcoin. I am very thankful to have the support from some organizations that I deeply admire, like the HRF and the Bitcoin Design Foundation, that allow me to design for Bitcoin and Ecash full time. I also work at Hoseki, which is a Bitcoin startup that does proof of reserves and proof of attestation. So we make it easy for you to prove your Bitcoin. If you want to see my work or follow me, you can do so there. So this is a bit of a more technical conference, so I'll just kind of breeze through some of the Cashew 101. But for those of you who may not be familiar, Cashew is one of two main eCash implementations on Bitcoin. And one of the things that, to just quickly summarize what makes Cashew special, is that you can take Bitcoin and then you can basically have Bitcoin be a string of text, and this string of text is the money. So that's kind of a very kind of unique property of eCash, and it unlocks a lot of user experience ways and things that we can do. I like to say that we call these like nuts in eCash terminology, is the string of text that you can redeem or encode. And you can also basically unlock this kind of, what I like to think about is like a throw UX. Because you have a string of text in the form of eCash, you can just take this string of text, you can just throw it to other people. Unlike with other payment methods like Lightning, you need to know where it's going. So you need a Lightning address or you need a Lightning invoice in order for you to send the payment. But eCash unlocks this ability to just kind of push money in the same way that you would push physical cash. You can just throw this at people. In addition to that, eCash has some of the best-in-class privacy. It's using very old cryptography invented by David Chaum, and specifically it's like a variant of David Wagner's like blinded signature variation of the Chaumian eCash scheme. But it's very old cryptography from 1982, and it's still extremely, extremely good. So it's really good in that regard. Just a little bit about the history of Cashew. Again, I'll be brief. It started almost 3 years ago now, when Kali launched it as like kind of a weekend project. And then in 2023, it expanded. There were different implementations of Cashew in different languages like Go, TypeScript, and Rust. In 2024, there was a third party called CoinOS that actually implemented Cashew into their own wallet, which was cool. And where we are today, there's over 29 different Cashew projects, wallets, implementations. There's a lot of developers that are working on it. You probably have heard of some of them. So it's thriving. And this is what it looks like. So this is some of the things that you can do with eCash that I think are really cool. So on the left, you can take the string of text, you can put it in a QR code, and then you can have these like physical pieces of paper. On the right, you can throw the money in a chat, kind of like what you're seeing here happening is a bit chat fork where people are putting Cashew in a chat, and then anyone can just tap a button to claim the eCash, and then it's automatically kind of redeemed in their wallet. So that's kind of, I think, very novel and interesting use cases of eCash and how you can, interact with Bitcoin in a different kind of way. So what I want to share with you guys are three of the major kind of design challenges or product challenges that we face when we design for Cashew. Then I want to share with you a feature that I'm really excited about called multi-nut payments. Then at the very end, I'm going to share with you guys a kind of learning or a flow that I've unlocked to make my contributions as a product designer more effective, using kind of a combination of AI design tools, traditional product design tools, and a methodology. So let's start with the problems that we face. Discoverability and onboarding. This is kind of the main, one of the first issues that we encounter when we tell people about eCash is you need to have a mint to be able to connect to it. So if you have a user download Cashew, one of the first things that they're confused about is this concept of a mint, which for those of you guys that don't know, a mint is like a custodian. It's like the bank account kind of that you're using to custody your Bitcoin so that you can unlock these Ecash properties. People are unsure of how they find one or how they go about kind of even deciding which one is good. So a way that we're working on solving that is by integrating a tool called Bitcoin Mint inside of Ecash wallets. So Bitcoin Mint is kind of like you can think of it as like a Yelp. Like it's built on Nostr, and it's this system where Ecash mints are listed and reviewed by users in a kind of a decentralized way where anyone can just put a mint up there, anyone can rate it, and then you can integrate this data source into wallets so that they can, at the time of onboarding or setup, they can just pull up Bitcoin mints and then just select a mint. So that helps with kind of solving this problem. And one thing I think we can be doing better from a product design point of view is kind of seamlessly integrating it into wallets. And what you're seeing here with cashew.me, this wallet here, is what it looks like when it's integrated inside of a wallet. And that's how it looks now, but I think that we can be doing something's better about it. So this is just a quick kind of design mock-up that I threw together of how I think we can make mint discoverability better. So some examples is that we can just kind of follow these traditional patterns that already exist on like TripAdvisor or Yelp, where you just have the rating kind of clearly and visible at a glance. That's very skimmable. Another thing I think is important is that to put this all inside of the wallet so people don't have to copy and paste external links. It's a much better user experience when they can just click on a mint, hit a plus icon versus having to go to a website, copy and paste a mint link, and then go back. So keeping the user in wallet is helpful. Another kind of common principle is you want to reduce cognitive load as much as possible. So this is kind of controversial because it kind of introduces like a centralization risk, and I'm kind of cognizant of that. But one thing that you could do, depending on what type of wallet you're designing for and who your audience is just limit it to the top 3 mints, the highest rated mints, so that people are realistically, they go with the defaults. When you look at a restaurant or a mint, you're just going to pick the highest rated one usually. And just having the plus icon, I kind of touched on this earlier, just one-click mint addition would help. And all of these come with trade-offs, so I'm aware that there is no magic bullet solution, and I'm not suggesting that every wallet should just implement these and then solve the problem. There are kind of risk and trade-offs associated with each of these solutions, so you have to kind of cater what you're doing to the wallet that you're trying to build. Another kind of major pitfall of Ecash, or another problem that we face, is the risk. I mean, we all know that there's a lot of risk associated with custodians. And what can we be doing as designers to kind of mitigate that risk? So you might hear this very common kind of attitude from users are, okay, well, I understand that, Ecash and Cashew, I could just be putting a small amount of spending sats on a custodial wallet. Maybe I'm comfortable with that, but the idea that the custodian is just some rando on the internet versus like Blockstream or Wallet of Satoshi or some of these other custodial wallets that have a bit of a reputation in the space, like Primal or something. I much rather trust my custody to Wallet of Satoshi than just some random guy on the internet running an Ecash, man, even if it is just a small amount that I'm going to be using, which I think is a totally valid concern. So this is kind of the core of the concern, is how do I know which mint to trust? And one of the things that we're doing in Cashew is we're introducing this concept of mint auditing with a tool called the Mint Auditor. This is an example of what it looks like on a wallet called sovereign.me, where you view the mint information and you see kind of relevant information that can help you make an informed decision. And this is kind of what the Mint Auditor tool itself looks like. It's called a round robin auditor, and it has a list of all the mints here, and you can just click on a mint and you can see a very high level of detail. So you could see like the success rate of melts, how long it's been online, the average time. And this graph here that you're seeing is actually showing different Lightning melt transactions. So it's the mints that are processing kind of Lightning transactions between them, and that helps you judge the reliability of the mint. Are these payments being successful? And this is going to be relevant to you because eventually you're going to want to have to get your custodial sats out of there into your own custody, and you want to know that your mint is reliable. So this is kind of the Mint Auditor at its highest, or at its lowest level, I should say, with a super fine level of detail that I think is maybe useful for a more advanced user who wants to audit a mint. But it's not realistic to expect normies to go in here and look at all this data, know what they're looking at, and then pick a mint. So one of the things that we do is we try to integrate the Mint auditor into the wallet. And what you're seeing here is an example of cashew.me. The user is adding a mint, and then at the time that they add it, they can view the Mint auditor and they can just see this kind of visual information. They see reds, oranges, a success rate. So this helps inform their decision. Do I really want to trust this Mint, based on what I'm seeing here? So we're taking the very complex information in the Mint auditor and just kind of condensing it and trying to be clear about it. So it's like a KYM instead of KYC. Your Mint. And there's kind of a greater theory about different mints having kind of different risk profiles, where in the future that might carry some value to the Ecash, but that's kind of maybe like a later discussion. And that's good, but I think we could be doing something better there from a design point of view. So what I would like to see is better audit integration into Ecash wallets. An example of what that might look like is something like this, where on the left you have the top rated mints, and then when you just quickly kind of hit an arrow or view the mint details, you can have a very skimmable, kind of human readable, no jargon filled information about the mint, the success rate, the mint speed. You can kind of quickly skim this and get an idea of what the mint is. Another thing that you can do is, this is what you're looking at now is a combination of two different data sources. So it's the ratings from bitcoinmints.com and the mint auditor. If you can get these two different data sources and combine them at the time that the user is making a decision as to whether or not to join a mint, they can make a much more informed decision. And then I want to talk about mint swaps, which are when you receive Ecash from a mint that you don't know or you don't trust, and then you want to swap it into a mint that you do trust. That's a very useful feature, but it's also a bit complex. And what can we be doing to make that process better? So this is what it looks like right now on the cashew.me and Macadamia. So what the users are doing right now is they're receiving Ecash from a mint that they don't know, and they have an option to swap it or to receive it into their own trusted mint. And what the wallets do is they automatically detect that this Ecash is coming from a mint that they haven't yet authorized or trusted, and they have a swap option. Some of them do it automatically, some of them do it manually, depending on the settings. But I think this is really useful to kind of reduce the risk of you just receiving Ecash from random mints that you might not trust. And what can design do to kind of make that process a little bit better? So I want to share with you guys an initial idea I have that I no longer think is a good idea, but it's one that I explored a while ago. It was this idea of an auto swap. So the idea is that the user would have multiple mints. In this example, they have 3 different mints, and they can assign what is like a mint allocation, where they could say, I want, maybe I trust this mint the most, so I want at all times to have 50% of my funds on this mint that I trust. These other 2 mints, I trust them, but not that much, so I'll do 25% on each of those. And the idea was originally that the user would basically kind of allocate their risk tolerance for each mint, and then every time you perform a transaction, it would take your balance and then it would melt them into the allocations that you set, so that you're reducing your risk of having all your Ecash on a single mint. The benefit of this, I thought, would be that it would be a one-time setup, so the user would just kind of set it once and forget it, and they don't have to kind of constantly think about juggling balances between their mints. And I'm going to come back to this feature because it's not one that I advocate anymore, but it's kind of an example of like product design thinking, where sometimes you come up with a solution and then you sit on it and then things change. So a feature that I really want to share with you guys that I'm really excited about and I think kind of solves a major UX problem with Ecash is multi-nut payments. So what exactly is a multi-nut payment? So let me kind of present the problem with you. Imagine that you've been presented a Lightning invoice like this for 50,000 sats, and you're like, okay, great, I want to pay that. But the problem is you have your balance. You have enough Bitcoin, but it's spread across 3 different mints. So as of a couple months ago, you wouldn't be able to execute this transaction. What you would need to do is combine the balances from 3 different mints into one and then execute a payment, which is really, really annoying. So This is kind of an engineering problem. There's no design that can solve this problem, but the brilliant cashew engineers came up with a solution called multi-nut payments, where you can basically pay an invoice from three different mints in kind of one transaction without having to kind of think about it or do any swaps. So once they were able to kind of engineer this into the protocol, we unlocked multi-nut payments. And this is a technical explanation for kind of how it works, and this is a visual explanation for kind of the first version of it as it exists in cashew.me. It is an experimental feature, so it's something that the user has to toggle on. And this is the current design. And I want to stop and take a moment to pause here, because what you're looking at here is the user is trying to pay a Lightning invoice. It detects that you don't have enough, and then it opens up this window where it has all your mints, and now you can check off different mints. You can start dragging sliders to decide which mints you want to pay from and how much from each mint that you want to pay from, and then the balance updates, and then you can kind of execute this payment there. So that's kind of the design of the first iteration of multi-nut payments. And let's say I think this is really simple. You just, you check off your different mints. You drag your little sliders here. There's two different balances here that change according to how you execute the slider, and then you make your payment, right? So if I told you that this was very, very simple, and I think that this is a good solution, I think you'd be right to call me a liar, because it's not a very elegant solution, but it's the solution that exists now. And one thing that kind of I think about a lot is this quote from Steve Jobs, where the first time that you come across a problem, you really have to marinate on it. So a lot of times the most brilliant solution that you come across might seem very, very simple, but it takes a long time to get there. And anyone who's kind of designed products or built something kind of knows the truth about this. And I think Apple has done a really good job of this in a lot of their products. It's almost like a meme sometimes when you encounter these little moments of magic in Apple products. Like if you're connected to the Wi-Fi on your laptop but not your phone, then you pull out your phone, you try to connect to the Wi-Fi, you have this option to just hit the button and then to just share the Wi-Fi code, and these little things like that are really nice and simple, but it takes a long time to get there. You have to kind of marinate on it. And that's kind of where we're at with multi-nut payments. And there's this concept of upstream thinking, which is where you try to solve the problem at the root and not address the cause. And the way to simply think about it is like when you're faced with the design problem, you think, what would need to be true for this problem not to exist at all? Or if I just had a magic wand and all the capabilities in the world, what would I change so that this problem doesn't exist at all? And then when you start thinking about that and then you apply it to product design, you can come up with solutions that kind of address it. And what you're seeing here is something that I vibe coded a couple weeks ago. It's not really great from a visual point of view, but what it does is it takes multi-nut payments, and all that sliders and complexity is now abstracted away. So they enter an invoice and then they hit the pay button. And it says over here at the bottom that it's going to do a multi-nut payment, and it's going to take it from these mints and these amounts. And at the end, it tells you kind of what it did there. But realistically, this is what a payment experience should feel like. If we're telling people that this is the future of money and Bitcoin has all these benefits, and we're presenting them with a bunch of sliders when they want to execute a payment, we're not really, it feels like we're not serious about this being a better experience. So we need to kind of go where the user is. And I think taking multi-nut payments and just abstracting it all away so the user doesn't even ever have to be aware that that's even a thing, we just tell them that it's going to do that and then it works, is kind of the direction that we should go in. And that's where I want to see that feature kind of go in the future. So yeah, one thing I do is when I look at different solutions that I've come up with or that currently exist, I really try to focus on moments of like delight or magic. And when you see people use a wallet, sometimes if you catch them smiling or having a moment of satisfaction, it's often the little kind of small interactions that kind of make that difference. I have a friend of mine that's a music producer, and he told me about this concept of automation, which is when you take like an effect in music, like reverb, and then instead of just like applying the effect for like 30 seconds or whatever, you kind of adjust the effect over time, and it kind of creates this kind of like satisfying feeling to the user. And he told me, and I'll never forget, he's like, a lot of times when people hear a song and they say, oh yeah, I really like that part, it's because like the engineer kind of just manually kind of automated that effect and took the time to make it feel a little special. So I try to kind of think about that when I'm designing. And I want to shift gears to this kind of vibe coding unlock process that I kind of came across a couple weeks ago, where I was able to successfully vibe design a fully functioning Cashew wallet into a fork of BitChat using a process here. And I'm going to detail the process a little bit here. And you can see the wallet here on the right. But essentially what I did is I took a design in Figma. I used Cursor MCP Bridge, and then I was able to download my fork of the Android version of Cashew, and I was able to just take my visual designs and then have Cursor read the existing code base of BitChat, and I was able to reference the typography and the design Kotlin files in BitChat, and then I was able to basically build this fully functioning kind of Cashew wallet inside of it, all in 72 hours as someone that has never coded really in Kotlin before in my life. And it was quite remarkable because it works quite well, and I think it actually looks like it feels like it belongs in BitChat. Certainly things could be better, but once I kind of discovered this flow, I feel like as a product designer, this is really how I should be working going forward. And this is kind of how I started. Is you could see here, these are the Figma screens these are the screens I designed in Figma where I'm most comfortable as a product designer. I can, visually design something. That's great, but it's not in code. So I was able to take these kind of Figma screens, and I took a very kind of component-based approach. So you could see here on the right, instead of trying to one-shot entire screens, I just designed reusable components and then focus on having Cursor kind of build those. And when I asked Cursor to build those, this is kind of what it spit out. So you could see that on the left here is the Kotlin code, and on the right is the actual component that exists like in code. And in Android Studio, they have this kind of @preview compose feature or functionality that you can put at the bottom of the code that then lets you render the component in real time. So through this combination of me designing the component, having Cursor MCP read it, and then build that component in Kotlin, and then it did require some fine tuning with like the paddings and small stuff like that. I was able to do this, and I ended up with something that looks like this, where this is the wallet, fully functional, using the components that I built. Adding mints, doing lightning payments, dropping the Ecash in BitChat. And this was the huge unlock for me because no longer am I just designing in Figma, which is useful, but you want to be able to ship code. You want to be able to get these components into code. Developers are much more happier when you can give them some components instead of just static wireframes. So this is what I'm really kind of excited about, and what gets me up these days is kind of bridging that gap and having designers actually ship real code with taste. So that's something I'm really excited about. And that's pretty much it. So does anyone have any questions? I have about 2 minutes. Yes.
Check. I love the designs for the select a mint screen, or sorry, for the the know your mint stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go back there so we see what you're referencing.
Like it's super thoughtful. Do you have any ideas about how to thwart like spam or just untrustworthy reviews?
Oh yeah, no, that's a real problem, especially on Nostr, because you can't just moderate and take down the reviews. No, I don't have a really good solution of that, other than like you have to have some type of moderation. Because there's nothing stopping someone from just spamming their malicious mint and having it be 5 stars, especially on Nostr.
Yeah, I mean I love the round robin thing and like putting those stats.
Yeah, that could help. I mean, but this also requires the user to kind of. It does give you some time frame, so you could see over time the mint has been performing successful, but you could still have a malicious actor fake that.
Yeah. I mean, ideally there would be like some watchdog organization that like manages this that's trustworthy in and of themselves, and then they could vouch for it.
Yeah,
Instead of
or
just
there's multiple different implementations of like rating sites or something like that.
sure. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for the talk.
Yeah, thank you guys.